Hi, I'm Sean,
Hi, and I'm Shannon.
and we're the host of Wifey and Baby Mama. Happy Thursday, family, and happy Thursday, Shannon.
Happy Thursday, Sean.
Welcome to episode 12 of season 5. We realize you could be anywhere else, yet you are tuned in to another Thursday with your two hostess with the mostest, and we sincerely thank you guys for your faithfulness.
Yes, thank you all.
And I know we have spoiled you guys Inslee this season with guests. We had them poured in, but unfortunately tonight it's just Shannon and I. But sometimes we like you to ourselves, so I hope that's I hope you feel that way too. So it'll just be Shannon and I tonight. So I don't want to get you all hyped up. Let me let you know in the beginning there will be no third voice tonight, but hopefully our two voices will bring you some reason and some clarity on a very important topic. You ready, baby mama?
Let's do it.
All right, tonight's episode is titled Hurting While Holding On. And I'm sure more people are going to be able to relate to this than we like. And that's why we chose this topic because these kind of things are often ignored or swept under the rug. You know, when people they steady get emotionally drugged down or all in too deep or trapped off and they just eventually they just stay. So and sometimes it's longer than they should, or sometimes, maybe they don't know how or when to let go, Shannon. So it is our prayer
Mm,
that is something we say or share tonight, might be able to guide you, especially those of you who choose to stay in relationships, even when it hurts. And
yeah.
Shannon, I should say us instead of those, those of us, because unfortunately, I've learned until I learned who I was sometimes, holding on to relationships with both hands, girl, as I bled. And I know so many women close to me that did the same thing because we love so hard that we ignore the open wounds.
Hmm. Yeah, I wish I could relate. I mean, as we've talked about so many times, since we started this podcast, I had so much trouble with committing and I was never, you could never call me that ride or die or, that chick that was just gonna do whatever. I think now in my marriage, yeah, I think I've um, seen how, um, somewhat, not to the fullest extent, but somewhat how, you know, women who are truly in there in the trenches or, really wanting to be there for their partner and do all these things, even when there are things that go awry, because this is marriage. This is totally different. So things that would have sent me running for the hills, in a boyfriend girlfriend situation, in a marriage situation is different. And so I want to work on things. I want therapy. I want counseling. I want all these things to make stuff work because I'm in a marriage. But before that, I could give two flying flips. I
And
definitely was
that's
not a
that
ride or die.
well, and I don't know if that term even should apply when dating, but
Oh,
that's a
yeah,
very
yeah.
important fact. When dating, that it's an important phase because that's where you learn who you are. That's how you learn who the person you're gonna maybe eventually spend the rest of your life with is. But it's a little different because you can opt out of that. You can ghost Avenger
Right.
with no explanation. But when you're married, just walking out is not an option, just like you said.
Mhm.
But however, being hurt, misguided or emotionally starved is painful, no matter if it's in a marriage or a dating
Oh,
situation.
yeah, that's
So what do
true.
you do? What do you do when your marriage isn't a flex? It's
Mhm.
not the flex everyone think it is all the time. Or
Right.
what some people may portray it to be as perfection. So first you access the problem, then you discuss it. Then you decide if you are
Mhm.
going to work or walk.
Mm.
That's what I had to bring myself to when because I unfortunately have been in that situation more than one time. Being a ride or die when I had no business being in the car at all. You understand what I'm
Mm.
saying? So
Yeah, that's
I
deep.
had to decide, yeah, if I wanted to work on this thing or if it was worth the work, or do you just simply walk away? And for the
Right.
most part, the older me would have told the younger me to walk away every single time when it wasn't a ring involved or children. And I
Mhm.
hope, you all know by now that we are not a fan of divorce here on this podcast. It's such an ugly thing.
Mhm.
So if your issues are fixable, if it's not beating or infidelity, like we say all the time, we encourage you to do so. But both parties have to be willing to do the work. And the
Right.
partner serving that pain has to be willing to listen, Shannon, and change. Because
Right.
change can only be achieved if there's change. I'll say
Mhm.
that again. Change can only be achieved if there's change. And I hope everyone caught
Mhm.
that. Nothing
Yeah.
changes by staying the same.
Right. Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. And even when there are situations, I look at, my, m- I guess my father and my stepmother, or other relationships where there was some, infidelity, and they
Hmm.
still they stuck through it. I have aunt and uncle, I'm sorry, that went through a lot of it too, and their marriage survived. And you look at a lot of people when they say they've been married 50 years, they've gone through stuff, and a lot of times that
Yeah.
is infidelity. And we had, what was our episode, a few,
Shiloh talked
yeah,
about it. Sometimes,
yeah.
emotionally
Mhm.
unavailable. Infidelity is not the worst thing that can happen in a marriage. That was
Exactly.
Shiloh
Yeah.
last week on the episode
Yes.
Soul
Yes.
Choices. Yeah,
Right.
infidelity
Right.
is definitely not the worst thing that can happen in a relationship. It's
Yeah.
bad, but it's
It
not the
is.
worst thing sometimes.
Mhm. Yeah. And whether you walk away, like we talked about a few weeks ago too, or you stick in, um, what are you doing it for? But if it's a habitual thing, if it's
Hmm.
something that, this person is just going to keep doing what they do, regardless that you're their wife, regardless of the fact that there's that ring on your finger and his finger, he's going to keep doing what he does. How long do you hold on? You know, when do you decide enough is enough? That's the
Well, the worst,
individual. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. And no, I was saying the worst case I've found is that, like you said, unfortunately, that hurting while holding on usually comes from that partner, that most intimate person, that person that should protect you.
Mm,
They tend to hurt the person closest to them a lot of times for one or two reasons that when it applies to myself and people that I know in those situations. Sometimes they want to see how long that person will stay because they don't have the heart to end it, themselves. Or
oh,
sometimes they simply just refuse to say it's over, for whatever reason. And
mhm,
sometimes they really don't want you to go at all. They just fail to see the magnitude of the pain that they're causing you. So, first, I think it's important to know what caliber of a person you're dealing with. And don't miss me. It's never okay to hurt someone or inflict another person pain on another person, whether it's intentional or unintentional. I'm not saying that. But if you really don't know what you're doing, because women or men always accepted you the way you are. If you really don't know, that's where communication comes key, which is something else we discussed last week in our episode
mhm,
with Shiloh. Don't suffer in silence because you don't want to offend that person or partner, or risk it being over because you address those hard conversations. No, it needs to be talked about because, again, sometimes people may not realize the magnitude of pain they're causing you because people have always accepted it. And
right.
I'm going to just be forthcoming here. I'm just going to be transparent because that's who I am. And you said, Shannon, how long do you stay, or if you ever walk away, or is it a time you should walk away? I'm going to say that if, in my opinion, the things I went through with my husband the second time, if I was wiser, if I knew what I know now, but we've learned together. So I guess I'm dealing with a double-edged sword here.
Mm,
We've learned what we've learned together, right? Because what he has done to women, he's done his whole life, and it was always acceptable unless the woman walked away, you know. And
mhm,
in your case, let's even say my husband with you. You
mhm,
guys walked away. It is what it is. We were two people that really didn't want to be together, right?
right.
That I think was the case from and like I sat down and had like intimate conversation with all of his exes. No one as
Mhm,
close as you and I, of course, you know that. But
right,
it's been
right.
a few that I'm okay with because I told you I'm not that girl. Whatever you did in your past is your past. So if you
Mhm,
have family ties and y'all cool and I don't have beef with you, it's no reason we can't sit down at a funeral or family reunion. It's no reason that we can't sit down, with exes and say, hey, what's up, girl? How you doing? Whatever.
mhm, right.
But for the most part, I found that they were like, I just could not take it. I really couldn't take it. Like he was a lot, right? So had I listened, Shannon, I'm gonna tell you, I probably could have saved myself a little heartache. And not by not dealing with him, not by not being married to him, because I
Mhm.
absolutely think this is our divine assignment, he and I as husband and wife. What I could have done a long time ago was back off and let God do the work on him,
Oh,
because
gotcha.
I fought so hard to try and change him, and I was losing me in the process. I was bringing
Wow.
myself that kind of pain. And every time though I did say, you know what, I've had enough. Okay, we tried it. I'm gone. He come back. No, listen, this is not what I want to do. Can you help me? Can you tell me what we need to do? You want to go to counseling? Let's go. The thing about it, he was willing to make the changes once I brought it
Mhm.
to his attention.
Mhm.
But I think had I let him do it on his own before I re-entered this covenant, put this ring back on, I think we could have had a much easier marriage. I'm just going to be honest. But
Yeah.
again, I was willing to hurt while holding on, because I knew that he was the only person that I wanted. I knew that God, I knew he was a divine assignment for me. I did not
Mhm.
realize that until it was too late. Because once you're in
Yeah.
this thing, Shannon, unless it's infidelity or beating or emotional abandonment, you can't
Mhm.
just leave. So
Right.
once you, that's why we tell you, don't enter the institution of marriage lightly.
You
Shiloh said
don't.
that again last week.
Yep.
We will, it's some things you will hear us say over and over again because you don't understand how important it is. So
Right.
I hurt for a long time, Shannon, when I did not have to, had I just let God do the work in the first place.
Mhm. And I kinda wish, we could have, our husbands on here because I know if my husband was on here, he would have his own take of how I've hurt him. And I take full accountability for who I am because I
Okay.
can be, if I'm meek, mild, or whatever, but I'm also, you talk about your tongue. We both have tongues, but our tongues are different. I'm and I am admitting it to the world, I can be very condescending. And
Okay.
I, kick myself a lot for talking down to him. Um, I kick myself for sometimes just not respecting, him for who he is as the husband and the head of the house. And I'm saying this to everybody out there, so that I can hold myself accountable for things that I've done to hurt him and things that have come out of my mouth. So he is hurt while holding on. And if he was on here, he would say, Shannon's mean. She's a mean girl. He always calls me mean. You are so mean. You're such a mean girl. And I wish you wouldn't be so mean. And what he means by that is the way I talk to him. And so I've had to deal with a lot of that in counseling and have counselors and therapists, you know, call me on the carpet for, what comes out of my mouth. And um so it can go both ways, I guess is my point for bringing it up. I don't want people to think that we're just one-sided. Oh, me and Sean, we're perfect, we're good, and then the men they're hurting us. But we can hurt them a lot too.
And I'm so happy that again that you share that, because nothing we do here is one-sided.
Yeah.
We just happen to be two females. So we
Right.
again can only give you our female point of view. And trust again, Shannon and I had this conversation this week when we were speaking of booking a guest. We would love to have had a male talk about this side of it. But
Mhm.
again,
Mhm.
they don't even want to open up to their own wives and girlfriends or significant others. So they're definitely not coming on here to open up to the world. But it's not
Right.
like we don't offer, it's not a male bashing show. We welcome men to come on because again, we are not inside of your heads. We don't have the
Mhm.
same hormones. We don't have the same dynamic makeup. We can only tell you what we've dealt with. And here I am dealing with from my side. And Shannon, again, I'm happy that you said that. We're not innocent. My
Right.
mouth
We're
is
not.
very detrimental. Oh my God, my mouth is detrimental. But it's usually in response, not a defense, just a fact. It's in response to something someone's done to me, or he's done to me, or he've allowed, a situation to fall out, I'm sorry, or to play out. And I didn't like the way it was handled. And and I come home and I blessed him and I give him the business. And in return,
Mhm.
it causes him to, it wasn't my fault. But again, men, I will always say to you, It is your job to protect that woman and vice versa. But men are
Yeah.
they're the protectors. You know, our job is to love, to nurture. Your job, fellas, is to protect and to
Yeah.
provide. And
Yeah.
when those lines are muddy, sometimes things get ugly. So it's an indisputable fact that communication has to be at the top three when it comes to marriage and relationships. So
Right.
again, I've heard a lot, and not just with my husband, but again, the reason I could go in so much with him is the rest of them, Shannon, I just walked away. I stayed for a little while, and I'm like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm out.
Mhm.
Because, like I said, I
Mhm.
realized you shouldn't have even been in this thing. What are we doing here? But
Right.
again, when you have children and house and property and cars and health insurance, life insurance, it's just not so easy to walk away.
It isn't.
So
And
you spend the time, Shannon, to fix it. But let me
mhm.
tell you, in my opinion, Shannon, the only time that I would probably give up is when it cost me. I have vowed that that will never happen again.
Okay.
And I don't care if it's a ring, I don't care if it's kids, the dogs, or the
Mhm.
cat.
Mhm.
Nothing else will ever cost me. So as long as my husband and I can keep that line and that boundary clear, then we'll
Yeah.
probably be good forever. But it never can get to the point where it costs me again, because it
So
has several times.
yeah, so what do you think about the people that stay together? And I know we've
Mhm,
talked about or touched on this before, that stay together and they live as roommates simply for the kids' sake. I mean, from the outside looking in, they look like the perfect couple, but
mhm.
they're on the inside of their home. They're not a couple. They're just there because they have children and they don't want their children to come from a broken home. So from the kids' perspective, I'm not talking about the families that have all kind of fights and the kids are suffering because they're seeing all this chaos, but both parents are sacrificing their own happiness. He's not moving on with anybody else. She's not moving it on with anybody else. They're just in a platonic type relationship simply because they don't want their kids to have a broken home. What are your thoughts on
Well,
that?
yeah, we've discussed that with it was actually a male guest, remember, that we had up down. So it's
W-
this, I guess I would still have the same opinion.
Well,
If
up
they're
down they
both
were separated, right? They were
Yeah, they
dating
were
other
separated.
people. I'm talking about where
Mhm.
they continue to stay married, meaning they're not seeing anybody else. From the outside looking in, we wouldn't even know that there's anything going on.
Well, to
There
me, I think the reason I confused the two is because I think I gave the answer that I'll give now is if it was agreement that he and I made for my children, I would absolutely do it. So I
Okay.
guess when you
Okay.
said, so I guess you're asking that to counter when I said it will never cost me again. But
Yeah.
that's not, when that said cost me, that's not what I wouldn't relate that to that, because that's a choice
Okay.
I'm making for my children,
Okay.
for my kids. Cost me mean I have stayed in situations, Shannon, because I cared what people would think. I was
Oh,
nervous about looking like a failure. I was
okay.
nervous about being a divorcee again, and it's like I'm literally suffering because I don't want people to
Mm,
be like, "Oh man, she messed this up again." I don't care anymore. Like,
okay.
I am who
Gotcha.
I am. I'm not a perfect person, but I've walked into who I should be, and I'm good to people,
Mhm.
and I have a good heart. My like I said, my lines are clear. So I will never let anyone guilt me again into staying somewhere that I am not happy. And don't get me wrong, happy is a state of mind. Every day, girl
Oh,
ain't peaches
yeah.
and cream. We
That's
got to
right.
that in the beginning, very first
Yep.
beginning of this podcast, season 1 and 2. But happy meaning a person is constantly dishing me out pain, and I'm taking it simply because I want to say I have a husband. The devil is a lie.
Mm,
Like,
right.
I will never find myself in that situation again. But for my kids, I absolutely would do it if it was a platonic mutual agreement between he and I, and he was holding his end of the deal and I was holding mine. I would absolutely do that.
Okay.
Yeah, we talk about that. People make these agreements and then they fall back on them.
They break them. Oh,
Somebody
yeah.
catches feelings, or they continue to, well, I know we said we wasn't, but you want to try again? You want to try again? And it just gets so ugly. So
Mhm.
I don't know if that's always a good scenario, but I would definitely be willing to try it for my children if it ever came to that.
Right. Okay.
But I'm gonna tell you right now, that would have to be another marriage in lifetime because this husband ain't going for that. When he's done, he's done. So I'm telling you that I would be willing to, but no, he ain't going for that. I can say that right now. But I'm saying from my side of it, which is why again I wish they would come on. I wish the husbands would come on
I
sometime.
know, I
It would
really
be great
do.
to do this
Get
as
'em
a
on.
four band,
Mhm,
team, and we can,
mhm.
let it all hang out. But yeah, men are not, they're not inclined to do that. And one husband says, y'all, just so y'all know, we tried it. The one
Yep,
husband said, I'll do it if they do it. They like little kids.
yeah,
I'll do
yeah.
it if he do it. And the one do it, one was like, no, I ain't doing it. I guess that's over with. But you know what? Just like the male guest, Shannon, we've been getting a
Mhm.
lot more lately than our first couple of seasons. We're
Right,
gonna keep trying,
right.
girl. We're gonna keep
We
working on
are, we are.
them. We're gonna keep working on them. But for now, it's a hard no, okay? It was a hard no for one, and I'll do it if he do it for the other one. So y'all, we
Yeah,
stuck at a standstill
yeah.
with that. But
Mhm.
anyway, Shannon, before we jump to the next segment, I just want to say that to anyone out there in this situation, my wrap up is gonna be real short tonight. So I'm gonna say this before I wrap up to anyone in this situation. Please don't hurt
Mm,
and hold on to someone else to heal their wounds while you bleed out. Always consider yourself. You can't help anyone else unless you're whole. And we say that often. So please don't spend your time holding a bandage on someone else's wound and you bleed out.
mhm. Mm.
Everyone is grown. All these relationships, Shannon, are by choice. Marriage, divorce, the kids, it doesn't matter. You have to take care of you. And I'm not doing that. I'm not telling anyone to be cruel. I'm not telling you not to fight. I'm not telling you not to stay. Because Lord knows, y'all hear me say all the time, I fight for my life here every day. But
Mhm.
if I had a choice, Shannon, I would have did it totally different. I would not have went through all the pain that I did to save my marriage. I'd allowed God to do that work.
Wow, awesome.
So, do you have anything else, honey, you want to add before we wrap up?
Nope, nothing else.
All right. Well, just like I just told y'all, tonight's wrap up is short and sweet. When it comes to the topic hurting while holding on, if you choose to stay in the rain, be sure it's someone at least on the other side. At least they'll be willing to hold the umbrella over you while you fight together.
Love that. Beautiful. Thank you, Sean. All right, here we go to the sound off.
So we come to the sound off segment of tonight's episode. This is where we announce a song related to the topic of the night while also hoping to add to your musical playlist. We use songs from all categories and genres, and tonight's song is by the one and only Fantasia, titled Free Yourself. So log off, head over, and listen to that goodie. Because I don't even think Fantasia made a song I didn't like, but this happens to be one of my favorites. So, Shannon, if they want to free themselves or they want to send in a song that might free somebody else, where can they send it to?
Yes, we welcome your comments, your feedback, anything that you want to get off your chest. Please send it to wifeyandbabymama@gmail.com. That is wifeyandbabymama@gmail.com. And I'm sure I'm going to get a little bit of feedback just because I talk down to my husband sometimes. And I'm telling you all, I'm working on it. I promise you. I've gotten way
Girl,
better in the almost 8 years that we've been together. He could tell you, he could
nobody's
attest.
perfect. Nobody's perfect. That's why we're here. I mean, if we were perfect,
Yeah,
why would we be
yeah.
on here?
That's
And
right.
I'm happy that you gave a side of it because I don't want people to think, like you said, that we're male bashing.
Yeah,
My
we're
mouth is
not.
crazy too. So that's something that we work on. But guess what? Our husbands are still with us. So they're giving us a little grace.
Yeah.
Everyone is entitled to a measure of grace. So girl, you
Yes,
get yours. As long as what did that's what we just said. As long as you're willing to change.
that's right. And like I said, we welcome your feedback. We can take the blows. We're two strong Black women as we have on our website. So um, we welcome it.
Absolutely.
All right. And that is our show for tonight. We thank you so much for joining us. And until next week.
We love you all. Bye.